I'm joined by Robert Ruttmann, equity strategist at Credit Suisse. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us, Robert. So tell me a little bit about the sort of opportunities that exist in Africa for banks like JP Chase, Citigroup.
Well, I think, quite frankly, that a lot of these global institutions have recognized that if one wants to position for a long-term strategic structural growth trend, one cannot really ignore Africa. The continent, on an aggregated basis, basically compares to, in terms of GDP, compares to Brazil or Russia or India. So it can really be considered as a very significant area of growth for the 21st century. So these banks are just one sector that have recognized the growth of the African potential, but they're not the only ones. This year, in fact, we've seen actually M&A transactions of in excess of $50 billion that have been announced. So this is a trend that is likely to become a very important part of the 21st century.
Sure, but is there really enough of a burgeoning or a growing middle class in the region for Citigroup and other banks to actually provide services to? I mean, around 80% of Africans still don't have access to a bank account, do they?
Absolutely. Well, the way that I would structure that, the answer to that question is really that this is a lot of potential. You have huge untapped potential in the market, where you have a consumer market that is still in its infancy, you have a massive technological catch-up potential, and you have growing population, demographics, something that is not existent in the advanced economies. So essentially, for multinational firms that are looking for growth, they need to focus on emerging markets. And once they've, of course, tapped the established emerging markets, the frontier markets like Africa are going to have to be the next strategic point of a start.
You keep speaking about the potential, but are we seeing a reasonable pace of progress here? What about the obstacles? I mean, Vikram Pandit himself has said that expansion in Africa, not as easy as it sounds. Things don't happen much faster than they used to.
I think one should also look, if we look at sort of the last decade of growth, I think the fact that Africa has recovered so quickly from the financial crisis in 2008, I think is a testament to the fact, and it's also confounding a lot of skeptics, that this African growth story is sustainable. I think that looking forward, we expect growth rates on an income inflation-adjusted basis per capita of 5% growth per year. That translates by 2015 by 30% to 30% consumer spending growth. So I think that's significant. And if that's just the short term, if one looks sort of on a structural, secular transformation basis, I think Africa and the African population, which amounts to 1 billion people, I think is really a consumer segment that one cannot afford to ignore.
Thanks very much indeed, Robert Ruttmann, equity strategist at Credit Suisse in Zurich. Thanks very much.